Hey everybody, this is Erica from In the Company of Cards. If you're new, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you don't know, I read a system called Lenormand. It's traditionally a 36 card system, although modern decks have a few more cards than that. And it is a word language that, is a divination system. So today's Friday. I'm on today, but pretty sure I will not be on over the weekend. I got my COVID shot today, and I am delighted on the one hand, and not looking forward to, on the other hand, the fact that I always get a pretty strong immune response, which means I don't feel wonderful, the day or two after I get the shot. So I'm trying to get this reading in under the wire and then take the weekend off. So thank you for all of your kind comments on the last video and all of your hypes. I don't know what that does exactly, but I mean, I guess it puts the video out to a greater number of viewers. So I appreciate the hypes. I appreciate the tips. I appreciate the comments, the likes, the shares, all of the above. So thank you really so much for that. I appreciate it. All right. So I have my Lenormand deck here, and then I also pulled out the majors from one of my tarot decks. This tarot deck that I'm going to be using today is called the Black Tarot by Nyasha Williams, and I use it in my Substack writings. Thank you to those of you who have subscribed to that as well. I really appreciate that. So I pulled the majors out, and those are sort of the first 22 cards, and decided I would use those as sort of an extra clarifier for whatever I get from Lenormand. Just so you can see how the systems can weave together in conversation when they're used the right way, and each system is allowed to do its own thing. So I have, as I usually do, a bunch of things that I want to look at. I may hop around and not get to all of them, but these just are things that I thought were interesting and thought therefore might be of interest to you. So the first one, of course, is this shutdown. Now, we know that the Project 2025 people, namely Russell Vogt, who you know, has a job that is definitely scary. But anyway, Russell Vogt, the budget guy, he has wanted this shut down so that he can fire people, right? And then blame supposedly the Democrats for firing people. At any rate, I just wanted to look at the shutdown. I saw in the last reading that it would be longer rather than shorter. And when I say longer, I'm really talking about a period of weeks. Um, as opposed to days. And so I just want to look at the energy around the shutdown. And so I'm going to use for that question the tower, because the tower will stand for government. And well, you'll see what I do. Okay, so we're going to use Lenormand to start us off. And we are looking at the budget shutdown. And we're going to use the tower as our card for the shutdown. It's the card for government. So with an eye towards the shutdown. Okay, so that's going to be the shutdown. And then this is the Black Tarot. And I'm going to pull one clarifier and I keep it face down till I get to it. Okay. So we have the whip, we have the fish, we have the tower, we have the tree, and we have the clouds. So the first thing to talk about is really this whip and this fish. This is really an abuse. And a whip is an instrument of abuse, you could argue. I mean, it's a whip, right? Sometimes it's great. We like it. It's the card of discipline. So it's the card for the writer. It's the card for the athlete. It's a card for sex, one of the two cards in the deck for sex. But here it's not that, any of that. Here it's about abuse. And it's abuse of um, our money. Remember, Russell Vote's the head of the budget office. And he has said people are not going to be just furloughed, but they're going to be fired. Of course, this was his intention all along. I don't think that the jobs number has come out. They didn't want the jobs number to come out. So this is just abusive of the people and of our money. Um, Towers in the middle, that stands for the government shutdown. With the tree, this is the health of the country, the health of the government being in doubt. So I can mirror the abuse and the clouds, which means that under the guise of, oh, a budget shutdown that we wouldn't have had to have if the Democrats had just gone the way the Republicans want them to go, that's sort of the smokescreen excuse that's being given for abuse that they intended to do anyway. Uh, this is going to cause a lot of emotional distress. Remember that the tree is the card for health in all forms, mental, emotional, spiritual, psychological, all of that, health. And this is the card for emotion. So this will cost people, obviously, if you don't have an income coming in. So it's going to cost people financially, it's going to cost people energetically and emotionally. And that's part of the game plan, right? To wear people down, to make people afraid. It's just part of the game plan. I drew clarifiers. And so here we have the tower. This stands for the shutdown. We have the anchor, the stork, and the man. And by the way, I want to say a word about the tree. It is the card for health. And remember that the health situation and health insurance is the hill that the Democrats, at least for the time being, decided to die on, is to say, until you get those provisions in there that would have stripped millions, tens of millions of people health care from them, and raised everybody's premiums, we're not going to vote for your budget. So that's also why this tree is there. Uh, so this is the shutdown, the government shutdown, and it looks like it is stuck. That's why it's not going to be days, it'll be more like weeks. This is a heavy card, it's stuck. Uh, which on the face of it is good for the felon in the sense that it allows his henchman, Russell Vote of the budget office, to do his dirt with impunity. Can't, you know, you got to get rid of people if you can't pay them. That's what their argument will be. So ostensibly, and at first, it will look like it's a plus for the felon and Project 2025, with which he is very closely affiliated, for whom he is the tool, you know, the instrument. It looks like it's good for their side. All right. Then we have the tree. Remember that this is the issue that they're hung up on, which is health insurance and the Affordable Care Act. And the clarifiers for that are the dog, the child, and the rider. So I feel like this is the people who are working for us. So this would be the Democratic side. Uh, I think may have to make some kind of concession in the end in order for the budget to be, the government to be opened back up again. It won't be a big concession, but it'll be a concession. I do think that the Democrats are going to be the ones who will have to make the concession. Politics is a dirty business. The fifth card, as you recall, was clouds, and the clarifiers are the birds, the woman, and clover. So clouds is, again, them pretending that it's one thing, but really it's another, trying to confuse people. This is everybody talking, not just the lawmakers, but people on the street. Um, again, I feel like this is the Democrats having to sort of suck it up a little bit in the short term just to get things moving again. It's a small concession, um, not nearly what the Republicans want them to make, but we have to think about the long game. And you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. We may lose a little bit here. This. I can mirror it with the whip, this sort of punishment. So the punishment will be quick, short, and not as bad as it could be. So that's the small consolation. I did pull a tarot card clarifier for the whole situation. Again, what's the upshot of what I'm saying? That this will last weeks as opposed to days, that in the end, there will have to be some concession made by the Democrats. It'll be a small concession, but enough that it will be read as a concession, which would mean that the Republicans will spin it as a win. Uh, the Hermit is the card that I got as the clarifier. You know, I think that one of the things that the Hermit does is it shows people light in the dark. And I'm trying to do that actually right here by saying it will seem dark during a shutdown. It will also seem dark when we make that concession, that small concession to get things moving again. But again, it's like we will lose the battle, but we will win the war. So don't let yourself get distracted by all the dark. Just keep your eye on the win of the war in the end. And I hate to say, to talk in terms of war and peace, but these are the times we're in, and this is the energy of the times that we're in. So it's just about sort of keeping your head, remembering that we're playing a long game, and keep your wits about you and your eye on the prize. Okay. So I'm going to put these cards back, and then I'm going to look at the next question. Again, these were like in no order, just as they came to me. So again, strap in, as they say, for the next weeks. I think that with October 18th being No King's Day, if we are still in the shutdown, which we could still be in, because it won't be, the 3 weeks won't be up. I think it'll be about 3 weeks long. Uh, People will be in the streets. So, yeah, I'll look at that next week as we're getting closer to that so that people can make their plans and, you know. Right. The next thing I want to look at is whether or not Mike Johnson and Vance, the vice president, are in any kind of conversation about 47 or the felon's seeming Mad King George vibes. In other words, is there any talk, serious or casual, between the two of them about sort of floating informally the idea of enacting the 25th Amendment? Has the felon started to outweigh his usefulness? Has he lived out his purpose as far as the uh, Project 2025 people are concerned? So I'm going to use birds, and birds will be for conversation. And I'm just curious as to whether there is conversation about that between, I mean, I'm sure there's conversation about that, but I mean specifically between these two men, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, and Vance, the Vice President, who is, I mean, he always appears to me to be like a buzzard, like circling carrion, the felon being the carrion. All right, so let's look. I'm going to use the birds, and that will stand for any conversations between the two of them on the subject of starting the to float the idea of the 25th Amendment. Which, and by the way, if you don't know, 25th Amendment is an amendment that the Vice President and the majority of the cabinet have to agree to, and then they take it to the Senate to remove the president from office because of mental or physical inability to perform his duty as president. Okay, so we're looking for birds, and that's for the conversations about that. All right. So this is any, possible conversations that have taken place between Vance and Johnson about the 25th Amendment. And I will put the Hermit back in the deck. And this is, remember, this is just the major arcana that I'm using. So it's only 22 cards that I've got here from the tarot. And I'm going to pull a clarifier from the tarot. Okay, so we have sun, ring, birds, scales. Oh, and look who shows up, the felon. So it is very clear to both of these men being Johnson and Vance, very clear, they can see it bright as day, that there are issues with this guy. You can mirror these two cards together. Now, the second card is the ring. And the ring is about contracts, promises, agreements. And I can mirror it with the scale. This is not a traditional card. This is the card that I had my artist add to the deck. Um, so one of the meanings is, of course, what's legal and what's not legal. Uh, you know, a contract, a commitment, a middle, you know, uh, and then what's legal and what's not? What would be the grounds? How do we establish them? How do we get people on board? So I absolutely 100% feel like they have discussed this between themselves, these two men. Uh, In the center, we have birds, and I drew some clarifiers for that. So we have the garden, we have the young man, and we have the young woman. So one of the things, of course, that these two men will have to ponder as they think about this question of whether to proceed with, feeling things out for the 25th Amendment is the perception of the public. There are MAGAs who will be like, wait, what? You can't do that. There will be women who will say, go ahead and do it. Yes. They want the Epstein thing behind them. They want everything, all of the stuff behind them. They're having to weigh public perception if they pursue the 25th Amendment. Now, here we have the scales, and the clarifiers are the anchor, women, and the snake. Here's what I think about this. So, again, thinking about the legal ramifications of this and whether it will mire them down or cut them loose. I mean, this is something that they have to think about because what, in fact, is absolutely miring them in quicksand is this Epstein situation, which is a problem. By the way, one of the meanings of snake, aside from problem, is a clever woman. I've said this before, but for those of you who are new, and there are many, um, traditionally, the meaning of Lenormand snake is it's a problem. However, there is another meaning that is also traditional, so I'm not making this up, and that meaning is a clever woman. So what I had my artist do was have this snake slither through mugwort. Mugwort is an herb that is used, it's a plant that's used in healing and in divination, and it's considered a feminine plant. I mean, of course, a patriarchal system like Lenormand, which it is, it's a, system devised by men, um, would think that a clever woman is a problem, wouldn't they? So, but again, in my opinion, clever women are good. That's great. I'm happy about that. But they have this women issue with the felon that will not go away, that is really weighing them down, weighing the party down, weighing its agenda down. And so, um, insofar as they have to weigh the odds of, on the one hand, pursuing uh, 25th Amendment and upsetting some people over against the weight of the Epstein saga and everybody that is attached to that, and they are legion. That's a lot of what they're having to talk about. Are we are we buying a problem that's worse than the one that we've already got with these women? Or could we eliminate this problem altogether by, paying him off or 25th Amendmenting him, just getting him off the stage? And I think the jury is out yet with those two men on that. Here we have the felon, and the clarifiers are the star, the bear, and the crossroads. So, as far as the felon is concerned, moving forward into the future, and I mean, I'm talking weeks, months, he will become worse and worse and worse. I don't know if you saw that video where that he reposted of Russell Vogt dressed up like the Grim Reaper. Because of course he's cutting everybody's jobs and cutting programs and this and that and the other. And 47 being all for it. It was some video that was pretty ugly, like sadistic, I'm going to call it. And so it would be right in line with the narcissistic felon. His narcissism is only going to increase as he gets more and more demented. And moving forward, I think these two men will decide that unless he absents himself from the stage through illness, that they need to separate themselves from him. Remember, crossroads, you're on one path, then you decide to go on another. So I think they will decide that it's very clear that they and the party need to separate themselves from the felon who has at this point just about outlived his usefulness. And then the tarot card, I don't know what it is, so let's see. Again is the Hermit. That's weird because I shuffled. Again, it's the Hermit. So I think they are trying to sort of cast that light, the Hermit light, and kind of gaze into the future and decide, is it better for us to get rid of him now, or can we wait this out until nature takes its course? Uh, so they're in a holding pattern, a waiting pattern, um, trying to see what the best wisdom from their perspective is about handling this. So there won't be any immediate call for the 25th Amendment. They do see him as a problem, and they're weighing the problem that getting rid of him would pose in the eyes of MAGA for them over against his craziness. He's got the nuclear codes, just saying. All right, next question. Uh, the felon, since his unfortunate speech to the military leadership at Quantico earlier in the week, has made himself quite scarce. We have not seen much of him. We did see one thing. There was an ambassador to Sweden who was sworn in, and he mumbled some remarks at that ceremony. And everybody's calling it a proof of life video. And isn't it interesting that the White House feels the need to put out these proof of life videos because that's how scarce he's been. So I guess I want to know, why has he been so scarce? So I think I'm going to use well, let's use him. We'll just use him. And why has he made himself scarce? Now again, he did um, retweet or repost or whatever the terminology is, that video of Vote as the Grim Reaper and, uh, oops, um, my beautiful tin for my cards. Oh, uh, so his thumbs work. Uh, but what's up with him in this moment? How is he feeling right now? Let's see what we get. Why has he been so, you know, out of the public view? So we're looking for the older man. That's the felon. Why has he been out of public view in recent days? Okay. Okay, so we have Clover, Ship, there he is, Snake, and Anchor. I'm not going to pull more cards than that. I don't even want to pull a tarot card necessarily. I think his short-term memory is going. That's what I think. Short-term memory is going. He's in the center, and we have the snake, again, a problem, and which is weighing him down. So again, here's this short-term memory loss weighing him down. And he is sailing towards just more deterioration. So I guess, the more they can keep him under wraps, the better. Probably the more rest he gets, the better he feels. But I think it's more about, let's not let grandpa out in public because I think his short-term memory's messed up. Uh, so speaking of the felon, he has uh, he has a peace proposal that he is working on with the what the I'm trying to come up with a good adjective, but I can't. Peace proposal that he's come up with Netanyahu on you know this war with Hamas. So the plan calls for Hamas to release every Israeli prisoner, uh, and also that Hamas agrees to the sort of reapportioning of Palestine. I mean, it's pretty much it in a nutshell. Uh, the felon issued a wolf ticket, which is old school speak for a threat, and said that Hamas had until I think tomorrow, I think maybe Monday, I don't know, had X amount of time, not much, to agree to this proposal, or there would be hell to pay. Hell will rain down on them, whatever. Okay, Hamas responded and said, okay, yeah, we will give you all of the Israeli prisoners back to Israel. Um, but we're not really feeling that other half of the thing, which is that we have to agree to how you want to break everything up. Well, that doesn't sound like that the peace deal has been brokered. Not to me, it doesn't. Does it to you? So we're going to use the ring because the ring is about a commitment. So it would be, an agreement. So let's look for the ring and let's, with an eye towards whether this thing will in fact be both signed and adhered to by all sides. Now, the felon thinks he's going to get his Nobel Peace Prize. Those Swedes are not thinking about giving him any kind of peace prize. So, but, let him daydream about it. I say daydream because we know he doesn't sleep. Uh, so But let's just see, will this pact be signed and will this agreement be adhered to by the sides involved? And remember, the felon, is interested in, you know, paving over Palestine and putting up the Middle Eastern Riviera so he can make money off of it. I mean, I think that's probably equally of interest to him as the Nobel Prize. So we're looking for the ring that will stand for this proposal and whether it actually becomes a pact, an agreement that's signed. Okay. We're looking for the ring. It's deep in the deck. Okay. Um, let's pull a tarot card for that. You know, it feels auspicious anytime a line starts with the key. So here we have the key. And the rest of the cards are the garden. Here's our ring, the ship, and the birds. So there need to be further conversations, because again, Hamas says, excuse me, you didn't ask us anything. You just presented us with this plan, America and Israel, and we had no input. So, can we have a conversation? And it could very well be that once they have the conversation, there will be an agreement because Hamas doesn't want to be blown to smithereens. The Felon is in a bellicose mood, and we know that Netanyahu is a savage murderer. So he doesn't care. So it may be in Hamas's interest, Hamas will feel, after they've had a face-saving seat at the table to have some conversations about this, to sign this accord. Second card here is the garden, and this is people. It seems like all sides will want to move forward with this. So, okay. But I mean, I don't know about you, but I've been alive enough to know that, I mean, my earliest memory of um, discord in that region is from the 1967 Three-Day War. And I mean, it preempted regularly scheduled television programming. And I remember being really annoyed about that. But which is to say that, I mean, accords are made and broken in the Middle East on the regular. So I do not hold out much hope, but I do think something will be signed. Now, here is the tarot card, the High Priestess. You know, there are things that are not being said, not being spoken, which is to say that um, there is nothing fair about this accord. All the power will reside with the US and Israel. And the High Priestess is about sort of here, it's about secrets, just things that we're not going to tell you. Um, like the plan that they have for Palestinians, which ultimately is just it's wholesale annihilation. Uh, and um, the US and Israel are a little too hand in glove for everything to be above board. The irony is if we're going to be hand in glove with anybody, should it not be with Mexico and Canada, our closest neighbors and our dearest friends? Well, in the before times. So there's a lot that's not going to be spelled out in this accord, and all of the advantages will accrue to the U.S. and Israel. And when I say advantages, I'm talking about financial advantages. So, all right, I'm going to put these back and see what the next question is. I am curious about the health and welfare of the flotilla members who were accosted in international waters, by the way. They hadn't even gotten into Israeli waters when they were arrested and, well, I'm going to say kidnapped by Israel. And this includes Greta Thunberg and many, many others, because there were tons of ships that went out on this particular trip trying to get, food and baby supplies and medicine to Gaza. So I do remember when the last flotilla was attacked by Israel, that they said that the next one that came through, that they were going to put people in the prisons that they use for terrorists. Now, of course, you know that I mean, torture terrorists. Would they dare to physically mistreat these humanitarians. They already did with Chris Smalls, the one black member of the previous flotilla. I don't know what kind of color they have on the ship this time around, but how are they? So I think I'm going to use the ship, and it will stand for the members of the humanitarian flotilla that was accosted in international waters and the members kidnapped by Israel. How are they? So we'll use the ship to stand for them. And the ship is the bottom of the deck. Notice I didn't squeal this time. Usually when that happens, I'm like, oh. So because it's the last card, it's going to be the last card in the line of five. And if it's the last card, that means that each card that comes before, I'll put four cards that immediately precede it down. So this is the members of the flotilla. Okay. And I'll pull a tarot card to sort of close that question out. So these people came in peace as humanitarians. They're not carrying weapons. This is the card for the helper, the nurse, the social worker, the aid worker. These are all aid workers on this flotilla. So this is Spirit's way of letting us know that they get it, they understand the assignment, which was to tell us how they're doing. Um, you know, the world is watching. And then because I could not put the ship in the center, something else had to be in the center. And wouldn't you know, it's not good. It's the snake. And the fourth card is the cross. I think they are being mistreated, whether that means deprived of food or deprived of sleep, whether that means they're being physically abused in some way. Um, and I'm going to pull a clarifier on the cross. Well, I don't know if it's physical, but there's a lot of ways that you can abuse people without laying a hand on them, right? I just said you can deprive them of sleep, keep the lights on the whole time, deprive them of food, deprive them of water, deprive them of opportunity to use a restroom, deprive them of clothes, make them, put them someplace where there's no just the floor. Like, whatever. I'm not trying to teach people how to torture people. I'm just saying there are things that they can do. So I pulled clarifiers on this cross, which is this card of suffering, because I think at least some of them are suffering. Um, Ryder, Lily, and Clouds. I think that the Israeli stance is you all ostensibly are here to bring humanitarian aid, but we don't think that's true. You want to say this, the message you're trying to give is that you come in peace. We call BS on that. We doubt that. So I think they will be ill-treated and are being ill-treated. And so we all need to contact our representatives of our various nations. If you watch this program and you are from somewhere other than the US, call your embassy and ask what they're doing for the members of, your country who have been seized as part of this flotilla. Because there are people from all over the world there. Um, and we need to send our energy and our attention and our strength to these brave humanitarians because I think they're having a difficult time, and we know that the Israelis are. savages. I mean, I know I'm supposedly not supposed to say that. Come for me then, um, for entertainment purposes only. The tarot card, again, now you saw me shuffle those cards. The High Priestess. I think they are doing things to the members of the flotilla in secret. They've got them hidden away and are using whatever methods they want to use to, at the very least, give them a message. Don't come back here. Don't come back here. The High Priestess is about secrets. And I think that they probably have been um, rendered to some jail that they use for terrorists and then scared senseless. So yeah, it's weird that that card came up again. I did shuffle. All right. I lose sleep thinking about them. I know they got on those ships voluntarily. I know they knew the dangers, but I mean, and of course, courage is being scared and doing it anyway, right? Um, but I think we need to hold space for them, as they say. We need to keep them uh, not far from the front of our minds and always in our hearts um, that they find the strength to endure whatever they're having to endure, and that their captors get what's coming to them. Israel. Whew. All right. To come back to the States, that question got me all. Um, Not that we care because we care about her, but we care because we care about justice. I am curious as to whether and to what extent um, Ghislaine Maxwell's chances of getting a pardon have been changed at all because of Lutnick's interview saying, of course he was a blackmailer and that's how he made his money. And who didn't know that? Everybody that was in that house, or that visited that house knew that. I want to see whether her status has changed any. I mean, I know it literally has not. I know she's still in the cushy prison camp, Camp Fed, whatever. But I'm curious as to what her chances look like. She thought they were great back a few months ago, right, when she met with Todd Blanche. But the Epstein thing has not gone away. If the Congress is not in session, that's fine. It's going to be back in session. The government will not be shut down forever. And as soon as that government opens up, that Congresswoman will be sworn in. She will be the 118th vote that is needed in order to take a vote on whether the Epstein files should be released. So, I mean, Trump's modus operandi is to buy time, stall, stall, stall. But a lot can happen during that stalling time. And I think that my thinking is that Maxwell's chances look bleak, way bleaker than they did um, right after her conversations with Todd Blanche. But that's my opinion, and you're not here for my opinion, although some of you say you are, and I appreciate that. But we want to know, what does Spirit want to tell us about Ghislaine Maxwell's chances at a pardon, a commutation, at freedom in this current moment? What are her chances looking like? So I'm going to use the older woman for her because she is one. Okay, it's Maxwell. Let's pull a tarot card for her. Okay. Fish, bouquet, Maxwell, clouds, scales. She really, uh, I think she's feeling what I'm feeling. I think she's a little bit emotional about how things have gone. She really thought that she had bought herself a get out of jail free card with her testimony. That's what she thought. Here she is in the center. But I can mirror that card with the fourth card. That get out of jail free card is definitely in doubt. Definitely in doubt. Now, the final card in the line is the scales, which is my card for justice. But as we know, in this current regime, justice and justices can be bought. So let's pull some clarifiers on the clouds and on the scales and on Maxwell herself. Okay. And then I'll turn over the tarot card. And hopefully it's not the hermit or the high priestess again, but if it is, it is. Okay, here's Maxwell. She doesn't know what to think. The book is about things we don't know. She thought she had it in the bag. Now she doesn't know what to think. And don't forget that Virginia Giuffre's book is coming out like the third week in October. I've already pre-ordered it, but she apparently names names and, shames the devil. She would be a devil. I think she is in talks with her team, and I think all of them are scared now. I think they're really scared. Not just that she won't get out of jail, but that she will be even in more um, physical danger than she was when she was in the Tallahassee prison. There are people who are going to want her gone. She's scared and she also just doesn't know what to think. Now, as for her sweetheart deal, which apparently now is in doubt, we've got the felon, Clover, and Crossroads. So here's the doubt. Here's the felon. He thought that, oh, yeah, no problem. You know, favor for a friend. I can do her this solid, put her in the cushy prison, and then when I leave, you know, pardon her or whatever. But I think he won't go that way. I think he's always thought that some kind of way this Epstein thing would just sort of fade. And that's not what's happened. So he's going to want to distance himself from her. And part of doing that is to distance himself from any, sweetheart deal that he gave her. Maybe she can stay in the cushy jail, but she's not going to get out. I don't think so. Then we have the scales. The scales are justice. And we have the ship, the rider, and the tower. Here, the tower, instead of being government, this time around, it's jail. I think justice will require that she serve out her sentence. And, with his short-term memory shot, Felon might not even remember who she is. Ghislaine who? How do you say that name? All right. You ready for the tarot card? I should take bets on how many of us think that it's going to be the hermit or the high priestess. All right. The emperor. And you got to wonder, who is the emperor? Is it the felon? Is it justice? Is it the government? Is it Epstein from the grave? Hmm. I'm going to say the emperor is uh, the felon because truly her fate lies in his hands. I don't think that the Supreme Court is going to take her case. Remember, she made that appeal um, to overturn her case. I don't think they're going to take it. And so, in the end, yes, her fate does lie with the emperor with no clothes. And what we saw in the Lenormand is that the emperor with no clothes thought he could help an old friend out, but is starting to have second thoughts about whether that would be the right thing for him to do for his own sake, not because right or wrong, but just whether he would, make more enemies if and make himself look more culpable if he is overly lenient to her, which he's already been. So I don't think she's going to get out. She could even go back to the other prison, Tallahassee or somewhere equivalent. But I think her goose is cooked. I really do. All right, let's see what else I had. I have a bunch of stuff, but this has already gotten kind of long, right? Um, Maybe I'll stop there and save some things for Monday. Next week, I do want to look at the 18th and how that's going to go. I could have looked at what happened in Chicago and ICE, but we all know what happened. It was horrible, and a lot of it was theater, but it was also incredibly cruel and inhumane. But that's how they roll, is it not? So listen, have a great weekend. If you spare a moment to send me some well wishes so that I have an immune response to this COVID shot, but am not, laid out like I usually am, I'd appreciate that. But I will be here bright-eyed on Monday, and we'll pick up where we left off. All right, take care, everybody. Have a good weekend.